I'm Collier Landry, subject of the investigation discovery documentary A Murder in Mansfield. On New Year's Eve 1989, I awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of two loud thuds. The next morning, my mother was missing, but I knew she was no longer alive. No one believed me except one detective, and 25 days later, police found my mother's body buried beneath the basement floor of my father's new home he purchased for his mistress. I had witnessed a murder, and at the age of 12, I testified against my father at his months-long murder trial. He is still incarcerated to this day.
I'm Collier Landry.
And I'm Brenda Fisher.
And this is Moving Past Murder. So on today's Moving Past Murder, Brenda, I think we're going to finish this letter that my father wrote that we started in a couple episodes back. What do you think?
That sounds like a fantastic plan.
And again, we have not opened or read this since we opened it for y'all. So, yeah, let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Here we have the letter that we didn't finish the other week, and because we only got halfway through it, where my father was, just a recap, was describing the relationship between my mother's sister and her husband and giving us a brief family history of everyone, which was ended in a very odd statement of, I wouldn't be surprised one day if she killed him.
Huh.
Yeah. And just, we were examining his narcissistic and manipulative behavior.
I love how he projects.
The projection is real. That should be a t-shirt or something.
Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, the projection is real. All right, well, we're going to... So it started on we finished halfway through this page right here. So we're going to start. There's another page and a half. Exciting.
Wow.
Exciting things. But this one, just to prepare everyone, is when he describes his relationship and how he met my mother, I believe. I think this is what it is.
Yes.
Because we started looking at it and I was like, I think this is the letter that I remember from the last time I saw this letter was 2007, whenever it's dated, August 2007. Gonna put on the spectacles, which are broken.
Oh no.
They got broken. I don't know. I can't afford to buy new ones. So if anybody wants to throw into the bin of like,
dollar store, man. I'm telling you.
I can't do that.
No?
I the Tom Fords is the way to go.
All right.
But yeah. And I've had these lenses like replace every time I go to the optometrist. I have them replace because I scratch them all the time. And now finally the side of the frame just gave way and it's just busted.
Did you tape it together?
I use gaff tape, of course.
Of course.
I'm a cinematographer, so yes. Gaff tape is my first immediate reaction is to fix anything in my apartment, in my life, whatever. I thought it would work for relationships, but it doesn't.
No.
You can't just gaff tape a relationship.
You cannot.
Relationship.
No duct tape, no gaff tape.
There's no, yeah. Here we go with the rest of the letter at the bottom of page 2. We would always say to each other, "Happy 23rd." It was a reminder of the day we met. It was April 23rd, 1962. I was in the passenger seat of Dave Lufkin's father's car. Dave was driving. Dave's father was a volunteer fireman with the Arlington, Pennsylvania Fire Department. Naturally, Grandpop, this is my father's father, Grandpop was a real fireman with the Philadelphia Fire Department. We pulled into the hot shop, curb service, in Abington. We got something to eat. I forgot what it was. At the hot shop, they had curbside service back in the 60s. So for anyone that's been living with coronavirus, a.k.a. everyone, they've been doing curbside service a long time, apparently. We got something to eat. I forgot what it was. A few minutes later, a green Volkswagen pulled in next to us. Pamela Brady was driving. Ann Seidel was in the passenger seat. In the back was Mommy. Her blonde hair was pulled back the way she always wore it. She was wearing sunglasses and was quiet. These 3 girls were called the Troika, and all were in the same class at Sicilian Academy. Pam Brady's father was a stockbroker. Ann Seidel's father was a doctor. I couldn't take my eyes off Mommy. When everyone was exchanging names, all I saw was her. I said to her, "Hey, you in the back seat, what's your name?" In true Mommy fashion, she pulled the sunglasses off the bridge of her nose, looked over them at me, and said, "Noreen, what's yours?" Note: Ann Seidel went to California and married a doctor. Pam Brady went to Long Beach Island in New Jersey and married a builder. I presume both these girls are remarried and living somewhere else. These, quote, friends of Mommy's were professional gold diggers from wealthy families. Good to know. Continued. Well, after that time, we were inseparable for the rest of our lives.
Huh.
Okay.
Well, the
Funny.
rest of her life.
Funny. I think whenever we went to the hot shop, the only thing we ordered on the menu was, quote, a teen twist sandwich and a chocolate milkshake. We dated only each other. We went everywhere together. Mommy went everywhere with my family. I went everywhere with Nana and Pop-Pop. I asked Mommy to marry me in 1965. I bought her an engagement ring. We saved our money, and we married on June 1st, 1968 in the downstairs, quote, poor person's church. We were fortunate to have a place to stay. It was 4012 4012 Conshohocken Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19151. We moved into our first and only apartment above my Aunt Sarah's, Grandpa's sister. Now note, I remember meeting my Aunt Sarah, and I think it was Mary and Sarah, and I met them when I was obviously a little kid when we would go back to Philadelphia. And I remember, I think one of them had Alzheimer's or something.
Huh.
I don't know. If that happens and I start experiencing symptoms of Alzheimer's, Brenda,
Yep.
you have my permission to take me out to pasture and shoot me.
Okay.
I won't remember anyways.
That's true.
I'll be like, where are we? Oh, look, pretty. Well, and I'll wake up a lotus.
Look at the pretty flowers.
I'll wake up and I'll be reincarnated as a lotus.
Okay.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. But we're not going to get into afterlife conversations. Grandpop really helped us get the apartment. It had been occupied, but my aunt vacated the other people for us. Grandpop helped us repaint and fix it up. It was a duplex. Aunt Sarah on the first floor, Mommy and I upstairs on the second floor. We paid $100 a month in rent, utilities included, from June 1st, 1968 until October 1978 when we left for Pensacola. Vista Del Mar, 1333 Johnson Beach Road, Pensacola, Florida, apartment 317. It was only about 750 square feet with a balcony. We used to barbecue on a little hibachi. Wait, I'm confused. Was the apartment in Pensacola, Florida, 750 square feet, or that they moved to, or the apartment in Pennsylvania? Because he says it was only about 750 square feet. Now, I live in what I consider to be like a massive apartment, and I'm probably like 850 square feet. Wouldn't you say? Something like that? Probably. 750 square feet. Well, at least in Los Angeles, is a pretty big apartment. This is Philadelphia, but, only, I think that's a pretty good size apartment. It was only about 750 square feet with a balcony. We used to barbecue on a little hibachi. Had a garage and did our laundry in the basement. So it had laundry built in. Look at this.
Wow.
It was a great spot for school, communities, work, and easy access to our parents. I would walk to an ice cream place a block away called Scooperman's and get Mommy vanilla hot fudge every Sunday every week. Mommy and I honeymooned in Bermuda, but not the year we were married. We did it a year later because we had no money. When we went that year, Nana and Pop-Pop came with us to take a vacation. So that would be my mother's parents. I think I sent you some of the Polaroids a few years ago. Mommy and me in the Stockdale, etc. We never had a good camera until we left for Pensacola. Nana put some money in a bank, and they gave her a 35 millimeter camera that she gave to us. It took great pictures, and I think I still have this 35 millimeter camera.
Oh, nice.
Because it was my mother's, but maybe this is the camera. Hold on, should I go grab it?
Yeah.
I'll go grab it. We're gonna put a little pause. So this is actually the first camera that I ever used. It's a 35 millimeter Yashica. And as everyone knows, I love my cameras. But we'll show it to everyone. But this was my mother's. I knew specifically. My mom was also into Polaroids, so I have some old Polaroids too. But yeah, this is how I learned to take photos. Way back in the day. It looks like the battery is like oozed over. Anyways, back to the letter. In case you may start to wonder how and why is my father with this number stuff, it's just my brain, I suppose. But here is an interesting tidbit for you. Remember the alarm panel at the door of our kitchen? To set the alarm code was blank. To release the alarm code was blank. The address of our first place. No one knew these numbers except the alarm company because we had to supply them the codes to them in case of an emergency. Later, I found out the guy who owned the alarm company was a friend of Messmore's. More about that later. So he's referring to Dave Messmore,
Right.
the police detective, the head detective in the case that cracked the case and arrested my father. Also, alarm companies, I believe, do under a subpoena or, warrant, have to give up the alarm codes to people's houses. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the connection is. I mean, Mansfield's a small town, so like everybody knows everyone.
Right.
So everyone could technically be friends with everyone else. So I don't know what my father's alluding to here, but we're gonna find out because he's gonna probably use this as some sort of excuse on why he got caught. And it's not going to be because he did it. It's going to be because there's a conspiracy.
Right.
Conspiracy man. We were married for 10 years before God blessed us with you. Really? We tried and tried, but no conception. You remember I told you how Mommy and I always talked a lot about kids, about a lot of kids, etc. Barry and Blouser were part of that family of ours. I helped deliver you at BMH, Bryn Mawr Hospital. I remember being handed you, taking you to the incubator and cleaning you up, then wrapping you in a towel and presenting you to Mommy. She and I were filled with joy and happiness and tears. We both had waited so long for you to come to us. No, Bumper, you were loved while you were in God's pocket. Have been loved by us the day you arrived. There was never any other way of thinking for us. The bottom line is that we worked our butts off to make a decent living and succeed for you. We put everything in your name. You and Mommy were the beneficiaries of my life insurance policies. Mayor and his cronies found a target to get fat on. Do you know there were a total of 11 Mansfield lawyers involved with my conviction? An attorney for this, another one for that. Mimi and Ragu had to hire a Mansfield attorney to protect you. Carol hired a Mansfield attorney to protect your interests. CJ and Gail hired a Mansfield attorney to protect your interests. It was like a feeding frenzy. Every attorney was after the money he could extract from the estate or our family. Mayer was such a crook. Now, he's referring to Jim Mayer, who is the prosecutor. Mayer was such a crook that he tried to subpoena the money CJ had put aside for you from your birth. It was in his account in Virginia reserved for you. Mayer subpoenaed the account and took the money. Such crap. Charlie Robinson, my father's attorney, took my Rolex Submariner watch, which was inscribed Bumper 1978 and had my initials JFB on the band clasp. These, quote, good people of Mansfield stole everything they could carry. I already told you about our house and who lives in it. The parents of a Mansfield attorney who bought it at a sheriff's sale for $36,000. The article and picture I sent you a year or so ago showed our furniture there and some of Mommy's personal items on the shelf over the fireplace. All bloodsuckers. I'll touch on all of this as I proceed, but Mansfield is well past the corrupt stage. It is the proverbial Sodom and Gomorrah. So I'm just going to take a few notes just to sort of correct some of these hyperbole.
Okay.
Right? Hyperbole. So first of all, yes, my father is correct. There was a ton of lawyers involved. And yes, most of them were crooks. I'm not going to lie about that. When I turned 18, sued these lawyers because they had no accountability for any of the stuff that was like my family heirlooms and stuff. And I spent a lot of money and suing these guys and lost my ass in court because we could not get a change of venue to another county. And the judge that was presiding over the case is the same judge that appointed the lawyers.
Wow.
So I lost a ton of money, like almost my entire, like pretty much like close to a good amount of my entire inheritance was sucked up by these bloodsuckers on many. It just was. And I remember even like a few years later, after all that, I was living in Florida and I found this like, unclaimed funds in the state of Ohio.
Right.
I was like doing an internet search and I found these unclaimed funds. It was like $2,600 that was in my name and it was unclaimed funds. And I called the department and I arranged for it. And like, I was like waiting tables and, $2,600 is a lot of money. I mean, it still is, but especially then. And I said I was going to get the money, right? They were going to send it to me because it was my money. Right. It was my money in my name. Well, the lawyer, who was the lawyer for the estate, got wind of this, redirected the payment to himself, had his office contact me. He took his legal fee collections of $800 out of that $2,600, and then split that money with my sister, who I hadn't seen at that point for at least 12 years, and kept that money. He probably put it in his own pocket, honestly, and then sent me like a check for $600.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. These people were such crooks. It's like not even funny. So my father is right about that, because that's 100% the truth. These people are crooks, and I can name that. But anyways, these people are crooks. The lawyers that were involved in this whole thing, it was like a feeding frenzy. They gave me 3 hours to get stuff out of my house when I was a kid. I, of course, spent the first hour and a half like looking at my toys that I hadn't seen in about 6 months, and wondering about my dog, and dealing with the whole fact that I am back in my house. But I was there when they were doing inventories and everything, and I ended up taking these people to court, and they all lied and said we never did an inventory of the house, yada yada. It was probably one of the most horrific things in my life, for sure. It was just adding insult to injury, and they just had their hands out. They just took more and more money, and I had to hire a specialized lawyer that had to come in that knew that. I mean, it was such a fiasco. We're going to talk about that on another episode, but it was a 100% fiasco. And then people thought like I inherited like millions of dollars and all this stuff. No, I mean, there might have been that kind of money and it went into people's pockets, but
Not yours.
not mine.
So what about the comment that he made about things of your mom still being in the house now?
In that photograph that these people bought the house, I don't know.
Is the house still in the same?
Well, yeah, I
with
mean,
the same
we
people?
go into the house in Murder in Mansfield, and these people had bought it. I wasn't like scoping the place out, but I didn't see anything.
Oh, okay.
So
Maybe it was long gone.
I don't know. And there was an auction, and people did buy stuff. In fact, my adopted parents had bought stuff that they gave me after I was adopted, which was really cool to have.
Oh, that's really nice of them.
Yeah, I have this really cool ship's model in glass that's really, really old, and a wonderful ex-girlfriend that I broke up with destroyed it before she gave it back to me. So it's like in pieces, but it's in a box, and I need to, when I get the funds one day, take it to like an antique restorer.
I was going to say, get out the super glue.
No, not get out the super glue. Like replace the glass, because it's like old glass. It's like over 100 years old. It's really cool, but
Wow.
anyways, people do destructive things in relationships, that's for sure.
It's too bad.
So, yeah, he's right about a little bit of that. As far as him saying prosecuting attorney James J. Mayer Jr. was a crook, I mean, my experience with Jim, God rest his soul, was not that. And he had nothing to do with that. He was a criminal district attorney, not a probate person. So he had nothing to do with these lawyers. I mean, other than the fact that professionally a lot of these people knew each other because it's a small town and you know people. I mean, lawyers in Los Angeles all know each other.
Right.
You know, I've been to court and been like, oh, this lawyer knows this lawyer and this, that, and the other. So it's not like it's uncommon that lawyers know other lawyers. I mean, I know other cinematographers and I'm in cahoots with them to like, you know,
Right.
rig the DP world. We're gonna get those people. We're gonna corner the market on lenses.
We're gonna take it over.
Yeah, not so much. So, yeah, a little bit of fantasy indulgent. Like, again, this is him planting these seeds of, you know, doubt or, oh, the framing. Because for a long time, you know, his defense was he was framed. He didn't commit the murder, yada, yada. I mean, as he says in the, you know, when he's talking about my mom, he says, you know, well, after that time, we were inseparable for the rest of our lives. It's just so bizarre.
And really, even after, because he buried her in the basement of his new house.
She was going to be with him forever. Look at that.
Forever. Look at that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's amazing.
So romantic.
I wanted to be a doctor from the time I was a little boy. Grammy, his mother, my grandmother, would always tell me stories about what I did as a small child. Bringing home sick birds I found, or small animals I found, a pocket full of worms, bugs, flowers, frogs, etc. You name it, I tried to heal it. More on this later. Now, my grandmother did tell me that, and I knew that growing up. I also would come home with worms in my pocket and bugs. I wasn't trying to heal them. I think I was just trying to like keep them as my friends.
I'm sorry, worms in your pocket.
Worms,
I don't
bugs.
think that's
I had bugs.
Going to turn out well.
I had bugs. My poor mother. I had little, yeah.
It's like, what is this exactly? That would be bug mush.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Stink bugs. That was always fun when they got loose in the house.
Oh, no.
I remember one time my mom's friend was from Texas, and she went to Texas and had found a dead scorpion and brought it back because I was obsessed with scorpions in a box, but it was dead. But then, like, I was playing with the box and I lost it, but it was dark in the house, and my mom and I were freaked out because we thought it was alive and it was
no.
No.
Nope. I'm out on that one.
And these are the things that when I think about having children, I go, probably not, because don't you get it like twice as worse when you have kids? Isn't that what they say?
That's what they say. So I must have been an angel because my kid's pretty good. Just saying.
Okay, so I guess that isn't true. I guess that's an old wives' tale right there. We've just cleared the air on that one, guys. Now you know it's all bull.
It's bull.
Horse pucky. Yeah, you're over there doing like some mascara things and some.
Yeah, there was a girl who did a YouTube video. She does talks about murderers and does her makeup.
Yeah, the murder makeup chick. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's so good.
She's got 3 million followers.
I'm a little jelly, so I'm over here like living, kind of.
Yeah,
in my
she
own
does
little
makeup,
world.
and then there's another girl that like cooks and does themes. Oh yeah, no, it's
That's pretty cool.
Freaking YouTube is crazy.
It is crazy.
Anyways, let's get back to it. The only other thing I can recall that I wanted to do was be a concert pianist. Nothing else that I can remember. Mimi plays the piano. Grandpa played the violin. Grammy's father, Dominic Patrizio, played the mandolin. Raja plays the violin, and Chrissy plays the violin. Raja is my cousin, who is my father's sister's son. He's about 6 months older than me, 8 months older than me. And then Chrissy is my half-sister, which was born 14 days before my father, or 12 days before my father was arrested, who recently got married and who lost my invitation.
Mm-hmm.
I already gave some information on family deaths, illnesses, etc. But the bottom line is that there are no hereditary illnesses, no cancers, no diabetes, no high blood pressures, no mental diseases, no blood diseases. Our family has been blessed with good health and longevity. Oh, we do have the hard work gene. Occupational exposures, like Grandpa's mesothelioma, does not count as it was an occupational disease. Yes, there was another speculation about Mommy at the time of her death, but it is speculation as far as I'm concerned, and I will not speculate on it. So I don't know what that is. Maybe it was a heart thing. Her mother had a heart thing. But my Nana, her mother was a lifetime cigarette smoker. In fact, she, when my mother wasn't looking, would let me sneak a drag off her cigarettes.
Oh, Nana.
Oh, Nana.
Bad girl,
I'm pretty
Nana.
sure she was like drinking, what is that terrible tasting alcohol that people pay a lot of money for? Scotch.
Yeah.
I think she drank scotch. Now, I've had scotch and I've had way too much scotch on occasion, but it's disgusting. Oh, the fun days. I will close this up for now and start another letter tomorrow. At least I can tell you about our family. This whole nightmare has caused me to be angry. Angry with myself for being duped by the crooks in Mansfield. I am not seeking revenge. I have always had the ability to make money, and I know I will do the same again when I am out of here. I seek no revenge against anyone. I will find out the answers I am seeking, but I am not vengeful after anyone. That's God's business, not mine. My motto is, quote, living well is the best revenge. I intend to live very, very well. More tomorrow. Love and miss you bundles and bundles. Keep those questions coming. Stay safe and alert as always. XXOOO, your dad. Wow. A lot there in this letter.
And he's going to make lots of money when he gets out. And I just pictured him at the farmer's market selling bread. I don't know why.
Bread. Interesting.
Yeah, don't they have like an inmates, like ex-convict kind of
I don't know. I mean,
program?
here's the signature, though. There's your dad. Well, now, so that was written in August of 2007. So lots to talk about that last, again, this last thing, this whole nightmare has caused me to be angry with myself for being duped by the crooks in Mansfield. So, again, he's insinuating that, he's this has been the staple of his entire life in prison, is that, he was framed. So, that's what I'm presuming he's referring to when he says being duped by the crooks in Mansfield.
So who exactly framed him? Has he ever said who he thinks it was?
I don't know. I'm sure he's put it in a letter. I don't remember. I think that it was a conspiracy between his mistress, her uncle, his lawyers, Dave Messmore, our neighbor who was in the sheriff's department. It was like what is the word? A concentrated effort of all of these individuals coming together to say, we're going to get Dr. Jack Boyle.
So,
and here's what we're going to do.
He's saying his mistress was part of it?
I don't know. I just am trying to remember over the years there was many people that were all involved in this whole thing, and he was very angry with lots of people. And there was moments in these letters when he would talk about her and her uncle that he was going into business with in Erie, Pennsylvania, all these things. There's a lot of that type of stuff that was happening. So I don't know really who he's specifically angry with. I do know it's me.
Well, yeah.
Because, obviously we read sort of his retaliation to how upset he was for me not coming forward to the parole board for his second parole hearing.
Right.
Or saying that I sent them a videogram or something, which is just not true. I just didn't do any of that. Yeah.
You just abstained.
Dad,
from
you have nobody
the
to be
situation.
angry at but yourself because you murdered my mother, and you know it. And sadly, you can't admit it to yourself or others. I know he has, because I've been made privy to certain things that he has admitted, but it was always under the veil of I was responsible for her death because I pushed her, and then it's just always it's just bad. It's all bad.
But then is he saying that he did not bury her in that house?
No, he's never said that. I think when you're dealing with somebody who's a sociopath, and I've discussed this before when we were talking, you have to be really specific about questions and answers, because they're, as you can tell from this letter, he remembers times, dates, and honestly, to be quite honest with you, I do remember the alarm codes, because I remember numbers and things like that. You know this. You're always saying you remember everything. Oh my God. I just have. So I do believe that, because I know it's true, because those were the alarm codes that we had, and which some of them I still use. But he... So I don't doubt that. So I think his attention to detail with these dates and, April 23rd, 1962, I don't remember I believe all that.
Right.
I believe the basic generalization of facts. I met her on this date. This was the color of the car. This is who she's with. This is what she did. This is how this happened. And then there's these, there's a bit of soliloquy. We spent all these waking moments together. We were faithful to each other. We knew that they weren't faithful, that he wasn't faithful to her. I know this.
Right.
My mother talked about it, and my relatives that did speak to me prior to making a murder in Mansfield confirmed all this. Oh yeah. And my mom coming to the house and being like, where's Jack? And they're like, I don't know, because he was off with some other woman, and they were getting ready to get married. It was craziness. So
wow.
This is what it is. So there's a lot of soliloquy. Is that the right sort of term to use?
I think so.
Creative liberties, romanticizing, fantasizing, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, there's just a lot here. That there's the basic facts that exist in a structure, right?
Right.
Time, date, people, places, things.
Yes.
Who, what, when, where, why, how. Then there's all the filler that you have with this shit, right? So he fills it in with all this bullshit, essentially.
Right.
And this is how he composes the story that tells, that tells the narrative, that structures the narrative that he wants to tell you, right?
Right.
So this is what sociopaths do, and narcissists and people that are manipulative. They just, because this is what makes it hard to refute them. And they know this. If you have specific details of instances in an argument, right? And look, I'm not a criminologist or a lie detector person or whatever, but it is known, and I think a lot of people will agree, you've seen this in your own lives, where people who are trying to lie and manipulate, what they do is they use specific dates and times and facts, right?
Right.
Like I said, the who, what, when, where, why, how, right? And then they build a narrative around it. But you're like, and then you as a person, because we as human beings are natural empaths, right? We're always trying to understand. They go, well, he got the date right, and he knows it was in the morning at around 10 o'clock, and we just, so then it must be true, because you're doubting yourself, right? Because they're so convincing, because they're manipulating you.
Yes.
So you have these moments where you're, trying to figure this out, right? And you end up buying into their narrative that they've constructed, but really it's just a sort of an elaborate scheme, if you will, to make them feel like they are successfully manipulating you and manipulating the truth. And then therefore that manipulation of the truth becomes the truth.
Right. Because
you then, by accepting that version of the truth that they have constructed with this narrative, in your innocent just trying to understand what the frick is going on, right?
Right.
You're just trying to be like, what is happening? Because you feel like you're being turned upside down and sideways by their words. But once you go, okay, or you accept their story as what might be true. Now, maybe deep down inside you don't, but you're just like, I'm so exhausted by this rhetoric, this banter, this just debate about this stuff that I just accept it, but I don't really accept it. But then that in their mind sets it in stone, that is therefore like gospel. That is Bible now. It's this and that. That's the truth.
Right.
And then they use that to be like, well, you agreed with me on this and this. Well, that, because that's true, right? And that's what they do. And that's what makes all of this. So, I mean, that I think is a very extreme case of gaslighting. That's an extreme example of gaslighting, but that's how they do it. They literally construct the narrative using facts, which make your reason and judgment go, oh, okay, this makes sense to me. Oh, they must be right about everything else in this particular story. It's a compartment, because they're putting everything in it. They're compartmentalizing, and they put it on the shelf. Okay, that story is this. Boom, put it on the shelf. That story, boom, because that's what they do, and that's their manipulation, and it's insidious. And this is a classic example of this, because there's facts, and then there's liberties taken around those facts to make this a narrative. And then it ends with, again, him saying, oh, this whole nightmare, I'm upset for being duped by these crooks. Well, no, you murdered my mother. You were having a baby with your mistress. Like, nobody made you do that. You bought a house and buried her underneath the basement floor. Whether you were aided in that or not, you are the one that did it. We know that. How is that being duped by anyone? Dupe that you made what did he make a deal with the police department saying, I'm going to kill my wife, but don't tell anyone.
Right.
Is that what it was? Is that what you're alluding to? Like, this is insane. But this is, again, classic manipulation, classic gaslighting. And for years, I mean, the sad thing is, for years, because you don't want to believe your father is this horrible, insidious human being.
Right.
Despite evidence to the contrary. But for years, I lived with this under this guise of just, and not that I even believed this bullshit, but I just wanted to believe it. I wanted to really believe him, because I didn't want to think that this is so horrible. This is such a monster and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you can't, because it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But when you're being gaslighted or gaslit, or when someone is gaslighting you like this, and this is such an egregious example, the manipulation is so extreme that it causes you to rethink your whole, what it is. That's what they want. That's what he wants. He wants you to believe his narrative. Because at the end, because 3 years from now, he's going to be up for parole. So he's trying to manipulate me to get me on his side. And he's starting very early. I mean, he started years before this, but he's really trying to do that. And like you see in the scene, for those who have seen my documentary on Murder in Mansfield on Investigation Discovery Plus, there's a little plug for you. There's the scene when I confront my father in prison, and he comes into the room, and he's in a really good mood, and because he literally thinks that I am making a documentary to help him get out of prison, which is baffling. And as soon as I say to him, and this is what I said when Dr. Phil was interviewing me on his show, when I say, ever since you murdered my mother, that's when like all the air gets sucked out of the room, and you can see his face just completely change on camera right there in the moment. So yeah, it's very interesting.
I wonder if he thought you were going to say something like you were incarcerated, unjustly or something, and like
Who knows?
you were going to make this about how, he was innocent but put in prison.
Maybe. I mean, that's just so beyond delusional, but I'm sure. I mean,
Which it doesn't make any sense because you testified against him.
yeah. Oh, no, but it doesn't have to make sense to them. That's the
No.
thing that's crazy. Anyways, I'm Collier Landry,
And I'm Brenda Fisher.
and this is Moving Past Murder. Thanks, y'all.